topic of today's discussion is emphasizing digital sexuality education for content equality assurance. And I hope that you guys could be participating actively in this session. You can put your questions in the chat box below, and we have also the international sign language here. You can find out in this webinar. So I will introduce to our speakers here. We have the first one, Vitika Yadav. She is the co-founder and head Love Matters India, and also Teen Book. She's experienced in managing media, sexual reproductive health, and rights content creation. And she is highly encouraging young people, especially meaningfully youth participation in organizing content creation. And the second one, we have Yadanar. She's an activist for SRHR, gender equality, and also the youth and women involvement. Hello, Yadanar and Vitika.
Hello, Tantri. Pleasure to be here.
I hope that you are well and ready to share your thoughts, your experiences, and your best practices. So today we have to also another session for focused discussion in the breakout rooms. So please stay in until the end of the event. We also have some merchandise for those who are lucky to join our quiz after the discussion. Okay, so as we know that today the digital activity is rising, and also the access of the SRHR content among youth are very demanding. And as we know that around half of young people identify the internet or social media as one of the most important sources of information about SRH, and highlighting that digital SRH interventions are a key part of fulfilling young people's SRH needs and rights. So as we know that the content quality assurance become vital or become very important to be discussed among the youth content creators. So without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Vitika Yadav, to share their thoughts, their experience to all of us. So time is yours.
Thank you, Tantri. I just wanted to ask you a question. I'm happy to speak. I'm also happy to present a few slides, but also just wanted to ask you, is it okay to share slides, or I'm actually happy to just talk about many of the issues and points that you've raised?
You can do both. I mean, like which one you prefer, you can share your screen. So we will tell our team to give an access to you to to share your screen if you have any presentations to be see.
Okay, I think I will just use a few slides and guide the discussion. So if you can give me the, yeah, I can actually share the screen. So thank you so much. Give me a sec. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Just to, of course, be talking about digital pathways, we're talking about comprehensive sexuality education. I just wanted to, sort of begin my presentation with this brief video.
क्या आपको अपना पहला क्रश याद है? जब पहली बार आपको प्यार हुआ, वो पहली बार जब आपने महसूस किया, जब पहली बार आपके पीरियड्स मिस हुए, तो इस बारे में किसे बताया? अपने दोस्त या पेरेंट्स को? कोई डॉक्टर या नर्स? अगर आपके पास ये सुविधा होती तो? लेकिन अगर आपके समाज में लव, सेक्स और रिलेशनशिप पर खुलकर बात करना मना हो, तो आप किससे सलाह लेते? लव मैटर्स यौन स्वास्थ्य और लैंगिक अधिकारों से जुड़ी जानकारी युवाओं को उपलब्ध करवाता है, और वो भी सीधा उनके मोबाइल फोन के जरिए। हम बनाना चाहते हैं एक ऐसा संवेदनशील समाज जहां लोग एक दूसरे से सीखें और आपसी मदद करें। हम अपनी पार्टनर संस्थाओं के साथ मिलकर ये कोशिश करते हैं कि युवाओं को वे सुविधाएं मिले जिनकी उन्हें जरूरत है। सबसे जरूरी बात, हम युवाओं को उनके यौन स्वास्थ्य के बारे में जागरूक कर रहे हैं ताकि वो सेक्स से जुड़े आनंद के अधिकार को खुलकर मांगे। पर ये सब हम अकेले नहीं कर पाएंगे, हमें आपकी मदद की जरूरत होगी ताकि हम मुश्किल के वक्त युवाओं के काम आ सकें और साथ ही उनकी खुशियां भी बांट सकें, क्योंकि लव मैटर्स।
I'm sorry that the video was in Hindi. But essentially the essence of the work, when we talk about comprehensive sexuality education, when we talk about young people, it is really based on what young people need and identifying the gaps and the challenges that young people have had in context of getting the information they need, getting good quality, high quality information that they need, that they deserve to have, then to be able to make informed decisions regarding their sexual health and well-being. And that's the work that we do. That's the premise of the work that we do, where we provide open and honest and pleasure positive, non-judgmental and fact-based, science-based information to young people. And at the heart of it is the innovative media formats, because we work at the intersection of media and public health. We specialize in communication on SRHR, and we know how to speak to the audience on complex and taboo topics. One of the very interesting things around when we talk about comprehensive sexuality education and digital pathways is to also understand perhaps how young people, what are the pathways that young people generally use, have adolescents use and have been using, or perhaps are engaging in currently, to get the information they need on love, sex, and relationships. For a very, very long time, I think when we talk about sexual reproductive health and rights and young people, the biggest struggle was that the terminology around sexual reproductive health and rights was not even popularly used. 10 years back when we started Love Matters, family planning really, for all sorts of reasons, has been the most common terminology to have been used, without realizing the fact that young people do not engage in sex only to reproduce or only to have families. And the complexity of relationships and sexual relationships and negotiation and communication was sort of really missing. At the same time, the research that we undertook before Love Matters was born was to really see, what kind of information are young people looking for? Where are they looking for information? And there was, sort of a lot that was out there that perhaps we needed to hear. One of the most important points was the fact that they were accessing information on pornography. The world of pornography online was extremely popular and only getting more and more popular with young people. And at the same time, a lot of them talked about the fact that while they appreciate and they're okay with the information that is being given to them, India does not have comprehensive sexuality education. But whatever parts of the program were there were a very, very disease prevention oriented, which again is important, talking about unwanted, unintended pregnancies, talking about STDs, STS, HIV was very, very important. But the biggest miss was the fact that nobody was really trying to address the aspirations and the questions that young people had around having really good sex, and which is why they were turning to pornography for the information they needed. So really recognizing the need of giving what young people were looking for, but which is fact-based and science-based information, and essentially trying to put sexy back into condom and contraception, and making information available in a way that was non-threatening was something that we realized was the answer to the challenges and the issues that young people were facing. I think the biggest, while digital platforms have their own unique challenges, they're an amplifier for all kinds of information, good and bad both. And because of the world of pornography, which is largely sort of produced with male gaze in mind, and how sexual relationships and women are being treated, it leaves young people with a lot of misconceptions and myths around what real sex looks like. That was one part of the problem. But one of the other things with the digital pathways was that you could really amplify good information as well. There was dearth of good information, but if done well, that was an alternative that young people had in digital spaces to get information that they actually wanted confidentially, because they did not want to be judged for the kind of questions that they had, and just much more privately. So creating those safe spaces online where they could seek answers and information, also engage in information around sexual and reproductive health, their challenges. That was the space that we essentially, sort of provided, and that was the thinking behind Love Matters. We of course run 2 platforms. One is Love Matters India, which is 18 plus, and one is Teen Book, which is for teens, tweens, adolescents, where we also targets parents and educators. And I think storytelling is again really at the heart of what we do, with really in-depth understanding of youth issues. So when we talk about digital pathways, when we talk about comprehensive sexuality education, I think we also have to keep the expertise and the understanding of youth issues in mind. There's a lot of information that is put online, but what separates good information from information that has not been properly researched, or is evidence based? What are the communication channels and the kind of communication? Is it fear based messaging? Is it pleasure positive messaging? There's a lot that goes into creating information in digital spaces, and then sort of having the reach that perhaps we have of 20 million young people. When we talk about in-depth understanding, we talk about everything, just not sort of focusing on priority areas which we as adults or as governments think are priority areas, but really looking at priority areas also from the perspective of young people and being very futuristic about it. So it's very, very comprehensive. It's for everyone. It's inclusive, and the focus is really on overall health and well-being. These are just some of the the kind of reach that we have. Interestingly, in terms of our work, we have our website, which is a comprehensive bilingual resource in Hindi and English. What we have also tried to do in the digital space is to connect people with the nearest service providers, so that not only information, but information is linked to service delivery and also uptake of services that they need. And in this process, we have also done a lot of in-depth trainings for the clinic staff and the partnerships that we have been encouraging on ground. Films, like I mentioned, storytelling, which is something that connects emotionally with people, has been a very, very important aspect of our work. Also because this is how we are looking at consumption patterns of young people in terms of what is making, how are their minds influenced. We all know about popular culture and films and Bollywood and how influenced young people are, using the same kind of mediums, but really trying to see how infotainment, which is quality material, that is delivered through popular formats, can really work in terms of promoting CSC and giving the young people the information they need. These are just some of the formats. I'm not going to play the video. Talking about, again, quality also comes from the perspective of understanding what kind of digital pathways do young people engage with and they prefer. And some of these mediums are not mass mediums, and some of the mediums are the ones which are fast gaining ground. Something that we did, in 2018 was to produce India's first virtual reality film on intimate partner violence, which was called Kya Yahi Pyar Hai. And it's an expensive medium, but the idea is when we think about digital pathways, we also need to think about the dissemination strategy. So for the purpose of this film, and where virtual reality actually gives the audience immersive experience around any issue that we want to talk about, we knew that was a medium where we could not expect everybody to have their own VR headsets. So what we did was we organized VR booths across Delhi metro stations, and for 10 days, the movie was screened free of cost across metro stations, and it was sort of supposed to be disruptive in a public.
Vitika, sorry,
yes?
Vitika, sorry for interrupting. Maybe you can slow down your voice so our interpreter could, could work easily.
Sure, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and I will remind you that the time, like 4 minutes left. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry about being so fast. I was, sort of running against time. Likewise, when we talk about innovative mediums, we did another film which was which was looking at safe and legal abortion, and really looked on the judgment and um, the discrimination that women face when seeking abortion. And the idea was again to have dialogues with the community and the larger community, and be disruptive in public spaces to encourage discussions around taboo topics and look at how people are perceiving information, how we are making communication that is engaging, but at the same time busting myths and misconceptions and giving people information they need. One of the primary purposes has also been that most often in countries where we live, there are laws, there are policies in place, but they're actually never broken down for people to understand what it means to them, what it means for a young person. And that's also the kind of work that we do through the films and through the campaigns that we pick on. These are again some of the very, very popular campaigns we have run online. And revenge porn, which is when we talk about young people and intimate relationships, revenge porn is a big problem, not only in India, in Asia Pacific, but around the globe. So we did a very successful campaign where we talked about what it means to sort of be responsible when you're operating in online spaces, and how to navigate safety when you're dating and when you are in relationships via online spaces. Likewise, L for Love was India's first campaign on normalizing lesbian relationships. Kya Yahi Pyar Hai on intimate partner violence, and Not Music to My Ears, which called out misogyny in in Bollywood music and popular culture in India. Talking about again hardcore sex ed trainings and workshops, and working on curriculums that speak to the audience, that also address the needs of parents and educators is a core area of work that we do. So all the digital pathways that we have is also has enrolled in different settings where we try to sort of make sure that we're engaging with adolescents, we're engaging with teachers and parents. And the Birds and Bees talk is something that we have worked on. It's a curriculum that we worked on in partnership with Durex, and is being implemented across 10,000 schools in the northeast of India. It's a curriculum that's doing extremely well, and we are hoping that the curriculum will be adapted for use in the other states as well. So when we're talking about digital means, we're also, the idea of sharing the portfolio of the work is to also say that when you're working digitally, not every digital medium is going to work on its own for the people and the audience one is targeting, but you also have to take these digital mediums through different pathways and different dissemination strategies in different areas. And of course, giving the power to young people is extremely important, and to be able to encourage that, we run a program which feeds into the aspiration of young people wanting to be content creators, and how to make digital spaces much more positive, and where quality information can actually be produced by young people. We run a program which is a public interest journalism program, which is called Mobikar, and it's it's about new age content creators. And through this intensive program, they not only do they learn about issues and journalism skills and research, but they actually have had opportunities to produce their own content on issues that matter to them, and putting it on YouTube through their channel. Which I think is extremely important, because when we talk about CSE, when we talk about digital spaces and creating content, it is so important to be able to involve your target audience in actually creating that content. And perhaps that's the kind of wave we are looking at. And these are lots of people who have created videos on ground, and have been doing really, really good research on ground, and using their mobile phones to create content. So this is really about what we do. We have also done the India's first augmented reality app on CSE, which is interactive, which uses games, and which has a story driven format. And it really takes a person through a puberty festival where adolescents, but also their parents and educators can get a feeler of the kind of information that adolescents sort of need. This is just the prototype and how the app was being used. When we're talking about digital pathways, we also have to understand how fast changing the digital environment is. And keeping that in mind, we also looked at the popularity of podcast world. And while we have done radio before, we also launched Incognito Mode, which was India's first what we call local DSE sex podcast, which was hosted by a teen and is for teens, and is doing very well. We are currently in season 2 of the podcast, and if you get a chance to listen to it on Spotify. And again, breaking down complex topics into easy to understand format, developing quality content on taboo topics, making sure that the target audience is engaged in creating that content, and creating youth-friendly content that is non-judgmental is really a USP. So when we're talking about young people and CSE, I think the most important thing is also to understand what we all of us operating in different worlds can do together. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Fitika, for the insightful thoughts and also experiences. We learned a lot about what you do with your platform. I will recap. I will have a short recap. So through the storytelling, Fitika and the team try to to have a in-depth insight to better have to understand better the issue of SRH and to have meaningful impact to the young people. And the biggest issue is to address this issue to have a pleasure approach, if I may say, like you taught us. And also not only you create a campaign through films, through content, and through training, and also you with also partnership with brand to develop the CSE curriculum. I think that's quite fantastic. And also to better understand this issue, this content, the quality of the content also be main point in the work, so that the young people have have an easy way to understand CSE better. And thank you, Fitika. And we will have another session with Yadanar. And to indicate that you have a few minutes left, I will raise my hand, Yadanar, and please to talk in moderate or the slow pace, since we have here interpreter for the sign language. Okay, Yadanar from UNFPA Asia Pacific Regional Office as a consultant for CSE and youth participation. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Tantri, for the introduction. So please let me share the screen. Please also let me give the background of this presentation. So I'm going to present the content quality assurance checklist. So the background is that last year, when we did the survey with the DSE community member of what are the areas that DSE community members want to learn more, and the content quality assurance is one of the priority that the members voted. So I would like to also give special thanks to Nira Budinio, who put a lot of effort in drafting the framework for the content quality assurance checklist together with the Sandeep. So please let me share the screen to present it. Yes, I think you can see the screen. Yeah. Good. Okay, so content quality assurance checklist, and under the checklist, we have drafted and developed the 4 domains. The first domain is the accuracy and evidence base. It is also mentioned by the the previous presentation left matters, how accuracy and evidence base is like very important. And the second component is norms and rights. And third component is comprehensive, relevant, and use. And then the fourth component is about the diversity, inclusion, and equity. So I will go through these one by one. So for the first component, and there are sub-themes, and the very first point is the extent to which the DSE content is based on sources that are either endorsed by the global or local reputable SRHR organizations. So the usual go-to references like the World Health Organization, Planned Parenthood, and also the health ministries in the country, and also based on the data gathered through the scientific and empirical method, or the consensus of the experts. And another important point is that the up-to-date resources. So the DSE content use the up-to-date resources to reduce the risk of like sharing outdated or incorrect information. And the second domain is about the references and access to sources. So we give the data, we give the infographic related to SRHR to the audience, and those content resources should be clearly and comprehensively stated, and also provide the publicly available resources to the audience so that they can explore further about the topic through these resources. I would like to show a short video. So this was the sex education video used by the Australia back in 1986. Yeah, please let me change the screen. Yeah.
First, only gays and IV drug users were being killed by AIDS. But now we know every one of us could be devastated by it. The fact is, over 50,000 men, women, and children now carry the AIDS virus. That in 3 years, nearly 2,000 of us will be dead. That if not stopped, it could kill more Australians than World War II. But AIDS can be stopped, and you can help stop it. If you have sex, have just one safe partner, or always use condoms. Always.
Yes, from the sex education video, you can see that the videos use it is the information from the 1986. So it didn't really talk about the availability of the antiretroviral. It didn't talk about the PrEP or PEP because it was not available at the time, right? And you can also observe that the video actually used stigmatizing languages to some group of people. It started with the it only happened to the gays, according to the term that they use, and also IV drug user. And I get chills every time I see that video because it really used a scare tactic. It really threatened you that, it will kill you. It might be like up-to-date information in the 1986. The point here is that this is a visible example that the information that we provide through the DSE content have to be up to date. So in 2022, we can't use the same information back in that they used in 1986 anymore because it is not relevant. We have like up-to-date resources for the HIV and AIDS. We have up-to-date terms to provide information about the HIV and AIDS. And This is the example from the UNFPA of how we use the evidence and scientifically accurate data for the DSE. So here it is a social media card that we produce based upon the report that we did through the online survey with the adolescent and youth. And the evidence and scientifically accurate was also pointed out from the previous presentation also. So the second domain is norms and rights. So the first one is that effective DSE content should take into account of the social, cultural, and religious norms, and consider the values and belief, because this can affect the acceptability of the DSE content. For instance, like in more conservative context, adopting a sex-positive approach might discourage some young people from assessing the DSE content. But at the same time, we have to ensure that the norms and rights are not harmful, are not human rights violation. So if the norms and the social norms are a violation of the human rights, then linking with the second point that the DSE content should challenge the harmful gender and discriminatory norms and promote the rights affirming norms through the content. And the third one is to respect the young people right to make the informed decision on their sexuality, their body, health, and relationship. So like the extent to which DSE content encourages and allows for young people decision-making based on the comprehensive information. So the content should empower them to take control of their sexuality, their bodies, their health and relationships freely and responsibility. So the content should promote their agency, autonomy, and self-esteem. So I include these red button video, but I will not show it as an example because of the time limitation. But when I will share it, you can watch this video as an example of like how the content promote the norms and rights. The third one is the diversity, inclusion, and equity. So to what extent the DSE content use the inclusive language, non-stigmatizing language, and non-stigmatizing language means that the language used in a content about a certain issue doesn't contribute to the marginalization or negative portrait of the cause that the content is promoting. And then the second checklist is like, how about the image? How about the visual that the DSE content use? Is it also representation of the diversity? Is it also inclusive? That's also in the checklist to look at when we are determining the quality of the content. And then the third one is how accessible the DSE content is to the diverse young people, especially young people with disability. For example, whether the images are provided with alternative text, does the video have the international sign language, does the video have the subtitle or closed captioning, etc. So here again, I use the red button, and you can explore it in your own time, but the example of the DSE content which promote the diversity, inclusion, and equity. So the last domain here is the comprehensiveness, relevance, and use. So the first point is comprehensive information. It is also mentioned during the Love Matters presentation that the topic covers like a range of topics related to the SRHR, and it addresses the DSE content addresses the sexual and reproductive health issue, including but not limited to these topics like sexual and reproductive health, anatomy and physiology, and then puberty and menstruation, reproduction, modern contraception, pregnancy, childbirth, and STI, including HIV and AIDS. So it gives like a breadth and depth of all these topics. And the second one is utilizing the strategy to make the these SRH topic more relatable and more relevant to the young people. So Love Matter also give like really good example to use the real life stories that young people can actually relate to, and also use the storytelling way, using the codes, using the humor, also using the popular culture, and also like entertainment, so that content is like really relatable and relevant to the young people and the target audience. And the third one is using the SRHR concepts and information, providing the SRHR concepts and information in an easy to understand way and easy to remember way. So the bad example is what I did during the first few seconds, that I use a lot of jargons, like I use ARV, I use PrEP, I use PEP, without really explaining what is PrEP, what is PEP, like with the assumption that everyone understands the technical jargons that I'm using. So it is important to spell out, it is pre-exposure prophylaxis for HIV, it is post-exposure prophylaxis for HIV, so that it is easier to understand for the young people if we avoid using the technical jargon and if we actually spell out the acronym. And also looking at if the extent to which and whether the DSE content break down the complex SRH topic into like simple steps for the audience to understand and the audience to remember. And linking with that, whether the DSE content provide like suggestion of the practical tips and concrete and realistic action for the audience, especially the young people, to take action after they learn about the sexual and reproductive health and rights. But one thing we have to be aware and be careful is call to action should also consider the contextual risk that young people might face. For example, like the race, ethnicity, and religion and gender, those risks that might put the young people into the risk when we put the call to action and advocacy messages for the young people to follow. And then the another one is the DSE content provide information about the rights to make choices, the rights to have access to the SRH services, and also whether the DSE content also provide the list of services and linkage of services the young people can actually take action, young people can actually access after getting the information from the DSE content. So that's also part of the checklist to see whether the DSE content is of quality or not. And age and developmentally appropriate, that we all are already aware that depending on the target audience, we have to tailor the DSE content to be age and developmentally appropriate. And this important point is also mentioned from the Love Matters. It's how to balance the risk communication and healthy positive youth development. So referring back to the example from the Australia sex education about the HIV and AIDS, is they mainly use the risk communication. They mainly use the scare tactics for people to use condom. The quality CSE, DSE content should also have the positive aspects on the SRHR and not just focus on the risk. So content should communicate respect, consent, boundaries, not shame and judgment. And DSE should also emphasize the importance of like forming the healthy relationships and the role of sexuality in emotional as well as the physical well-being. And another point to note is that sensitive topic and content, such as talking about the pornography, talking about the multiple sexual partner and sexting, should be approached in a non-judgmental but factual and pragmatic way. And the last one is whether the DSE content utilize relevant visual and image that are appropriate and that are enhance the intended message. So these are the 4 domains that with the support and help of the NERA that we have come up with when to consider and to use as a checklist when developing the DSE content. And we will also discuss further into it during the group section and in the breakout room. And we would like to hear your opinion, hear your feedback, whether you have other things to add, because you are the DSE community members are the one who's doing the creation of the content like every day, and will have like important feedback to us and important suggestion to us. And we hope that this checklist will be useful for all the DSE community members to help with the creation of the quality content. So after this webinar, we will wrap up the checklist and we will share with all the DSE community members. So along with the checklist, we also have like further resources for the DSE community member to explore, and we will share the whole PowerPoint with the resources after the webinar also. So my part actually ends here, and thank you, and I'll be looking forward to the group discussion. I hope I fit within the 10 minutes because I didn't see any reminder from Dentry. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Danar. I think that's quite insightful for us, for young content creators, that we are not only need a the accurate information, but we also need the comprehensiveness, inclusion, non-stigma language or content, and also it must be relevant, of course, for young people, and also we deliver it in non-judgmental way. I think we need more discussion with young people right after this session. And I hope that you guys have more feedbacks, comments, and maybe questions for our two speakers. And I've already seen one from Abhiram Roy, and maybe I will read this one. Yeah, very good initiative for by UNFPA India on DSE, and UNFPA Nepal has also just started to develop a CSE digital knowledge hub targeting for young people and PWD. My few queries are, do the Love Matters platform also link young people with SRHR services? And the second one, how do you monitor the uptake? Do you have to develop to collect data on young people accessing this platform? Actually, Vitika has already answered this question, but I invite you to add if there is more you want to add. Please, Vitika.
Sure, Tansri. Like I mentioned, one of the things around linking information with services has actually been has been challenging as well, because like I mentioned, we are very strategically, we are currently only talking about Mary Stopes clinics and FPI clinics and generally clinics who we align with in terms of the kind of work they do and comprehensiveness of services. But at the same time, there is there is an opportunity with lots of private clinics also in terms of vicinity and young people, but that's much more challenging because it also means verification of the clinics. And we also have an opportunity with the Yuva clinics, which is a Government of India initiative, which we really want to do, but we have found it a little bit challenging to really get them going in terms of how we look at comprehensiveness and basket of choices that must be offered to all young people. So it's work in progress, and we are very happy with the pilot and the fact that we are linking in information to service delivery and the way we are doing it. And I think as we proceed, we should be able to have many more private and other providers also enlisted after a very strategic verification process in place. I also want to add that the partnerships that we get into, it is extremely important for us to align with them in terms of how on our principles, when we're talking about open, honest, non-judgmental, that's been the biggest gap when it comes to service delivery, even in the best of institutions that are supposed to be there for young people, because essentially they're being run by people and staff who are also conditioned in a certain way to talk about love and sex and relationships, and how the difference that comes in when you're talking about a married versus an unmarried young person coming for services. So lots of those challenges we're trying to address through our work. And and for data collection, we look at Google Analytics, we look at the kind of questions and comments that we receive from young people on a daily basis is just, I would say, proof points. And that is something that we really look forward to collecting and collating and sharing back with our audience. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vitika. I think I have already also seen your answer in the chat, that also it shows that I think 60 up to 80 questions, quite a lot from young people. To post their questions to your platform. I think it indicates that they really need an accessible information, an easy way to catch or to gain accurate, non-judgmental information regarding SRHR, since it's still sensitive or maybe taboo in your region. Okay, thank you, Fitika. And I also have a comment here from Ed Bagasol. If I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong to mention the name. Making HIV key messages neutral, especially on access, is also a good strategy. Regardless of one's HIV status, for instance, everyone should be encouraged to access HIV prevention, testing, and treatment services. Any comment from you, Yadana, to respond this statement?
Yeah, I agree with you that it is important that we make use the non-stigmatizing and inclusive language when we talk about the HIV and AIDS, and also access to like prevention, testing, like prevention and treatment and testing services, and also actual linkages with the services is very important. So I agree with Ed Bagaso, and thank you for the comment.
Yeah, I'm so happy here to have a fruitful discussion, and also another input, any references like from Nishadi Gunatilake, sharing here an article I wrote which looks at the potential of social media as a provider of sex education. Thank you very much for your references for the DSE. And also Yadana has already put her I think an interesting article discussing the impact of 1986 AIDS campaign in Australia and its impact. And since we don't have any question, but I still have from mine, and I think I would like to ask Fitika about the challenges that you face, especially the Love Matters platform or other campaign that you organize. Is there any challenges from from the people in your region, from the stakeholder regarding this issue, or from young people itself? Maybe you can tell us more.
Very interesting question. And, contrary to what people think in terms of an environment where there must have been a backlash, actually, it's been more than a decade of providing, information on SRHR, which is pleasure-based. There has been no backlash, which we can say from the government or nothing like that. Actually, the backlash has been from the digital platforms where we operate and where we host a community, which is censorship by Google and Facebook, because the algorithms have not been trained to really differentiate between what is good quality CSE content from pornography. And that is where there's a lot of advocacy work that we are leading, not only in the region, but internationally and globally, trying to not only present a picture on what how censorship on SRHR, good quality SRHR information, is denying young people the right to have the information that they must have, but also how these platforms need to be much more sophisticated and need to look at way outs. And we have also discussed some of the formats wherein we are happy to discuss solutions with them, which is to whitelist organizations, and there can be a particular criteria in terms of really listing organizations and whitelisting those organizations so the content is not censored. But I think the biggest backlash really is from the platforms where we operate and we organize such huge communities. On one hand, they're making so much money from people and from us, and on the other hand, censorship is really denying young people the right to good quality information that they must have. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, I would say for the SRHR community globally, and not just in one country, and which we must advocate for and fight together. I think when it comes to backlash in public spaces, so for example, we're talking about, the work that we do is meant to make people upset. That's the business that we are in, because we are questioning harmful social norms and challenging stereotypes and masculinity. And So that's actually success for us, contrary to what people will think in terms of backlash, because digital spaces are public spaces, and if we are engaging with people who do not think that treating women is as sort of equal beings, and the fact that women have a right to pleasure, to their own bodies, or when we're talking about disability or LGBT community, we're doing the work that we're doing because a lot of people think otherwise, not because they are wanting to think in a certain way, but because this is what the social conditioning has been. So it's also a journey of unlearning for people, and we love it that people actually get upset and engage in a discussion, because that's the point. We need to have a discussion. The idea is not to fight with them, but the idea is to tell them, yes, you probably do not agree with us. We're ready to have a dialogue with you on why you think this is not okay. So I think that kind of backlash is really good backlash, because that proves the work that you're doing is making a difference. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fidika. So I think quite interesting to see or to know that the backlash is come from the platform itself. I mean, like in this case, like Google and also other, like I think not from the people itself. And also we still see censorable, I mean, like censorship is quite an issue, becomes an issue for these SRH content creators. And also it appears that they need so much money to operate this, I mean, like maybe tools, or to to have more to have a more safe or secure platform. And the issue comes from the global, and I think, yeah, I do agree with you that we need to work together and share the best practices. That's why we need this environment, that is the Asia Pacific DSE community, to share their best practices, to share their lesson learned during their content creation work regarding SRHR issue. And I'm so happy to see the comments down below for the feedbacks, for the references. And I would like to pose this question to Yadanar, again from the Bagasol. What are the lessons we have learned from the COVID-19 that we can apply to improve our responses to SRH issues? So Yadanar, please, if you have any thoughts or answer to this question.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And I think we can even organize the whole webinar about it, the lessons learned from COVID-19 and how can we improve our response. And would love to hear the inputs from the other DSE community members if we organize the webinar also. For me, the lesson learned is that before the COVID-19 and during, we are still during, but we are also a little bit after COVID-19, right? That the access, the expansion of the DSE to the online content like Bloom. And we took the opportunity to use the online platform more, especially during the COVID-19. And I think the opportunity and also the trend that we have is also teleconsultation. And it also promotes the discussion among the young people and the more initiative during the COVID-19 to talk about how we can actually access the information, access the services. If it is not like in person, how can we actually improve the online access of the SRH services through the consultation, and also the conversation around the mental health and psychosocial support, mental health and well-being, linking with the SRH, also like the topic that emerged through the COVID-19. Yep. So I think that to improve, I think we have to maintain the momentum of using the online platform during the COVID-19 and after COVID-19 to promote access to the teleconsultation, access to the SRH services that we can access through online. Yep, that I would say. It's a little bit vague, but I would love to hear more from the DSE community member in the upcoming webinars also. Yep, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yadana, on your thoughts and your ideas to answer this question. So everyone, I hope that you got a fruitful discussion and insightful session. And maybe last but not least, I would like to hear closing statement from both of our speakers for us, for our, what is our participant to take away. Please, maybe Fitika.
I actually just want to extend my thanks for having this discussion and for all of us to, sort of come together. There is always, I mean, from Yadanar's presentation, again, there are always things that you come across and that you feel, well, we all need to be aware and we all need to work together. I think the biggest challenge is that we all do not often speak the same language, as CSC advocates and providers, and I think and I think we need more opportunities where we can have dialogues, but also have the same kind of language around CSC, the need of CSC, and really push for it globally. I think that's a challenge, and this has been an ongoing challenge. So frankly, I mean, I think it's great that we've had this discussion, and perhaps step forward would be that we all try and see what kind of communication and language do we want around CSC, and can we all speak in the same language to kind of create much more advocacy and global movement around it. So thank you so much for having me.
Okay, your turn, Yadana.
Oh, that's Vitika make it like very comprehensive, so I don't even have much to add. And also due to the I think time limitation, we also have to move to the breakout room. So for me, like I really look forward to work together throughout the year, as well as to the upcoming, how we can actually come together with the one voice to provide the quality DSE content to the adolescent and youth globally, of course, like tailor content, but with the quality and with the inclusiveness. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for our speakers, Vitika Yadana from the I Love Matters India and Yadana from the UNFPA Asia Pacific Regional Office. And okay, and now I think we need to know more each other, and I should have made this session in the beginning, but I think it's okay if we want to know each other now. We will going through to the Menti matter. I think I will make it short. Please, our team can send the Menti code. You can go through Menti www.menti.com, and we will share the code down below in the chat. Yeah, I will type this in the chat box. You also can see in the screen. Yeah. We want. So we want to know more where you're from, what your platform, and what content that you like most. And also, if you have a not part of the DSE community, you can join us. So this is we only have 3 questions regarding this. What is it, like introduction session among our members, the DSE community. I will share again the code if you haven't seen through it.
Hello, Batantri. I think you're muted.
Okay. Okay, I will share. Oh yeah. So I will share the screen. Yeah. So you can go through this. I think I made the wrong code. So you can type www.menti.com and use the code 65825990. So if you want to join us, you can just go to www.menti.com and use the code 65825990. And we would like to know more about where you're from, what are the activities of your platform are focusing on today, and we work to engage to our members. So we're still waiting for the participants. Okay. So I think I made the new code. So 65825990. Okay, if you guys have already catch up this code, or you can go through the Mentimeter. Okay, what are the activities of your platform are focusing on today? Are you working on the HIV and AIDS prevention or HR campaign for young people, or to break the taboos regarding menstruation, for example? You can just put your your activities of your platform are focusing on today. So this is the code. I have already typed it in the chat. Okay, so we have already got some inputs. So some of you got to menstruation myth busting, SRH and SDGs, capacity building, body shaming issues, interfaith and sexuality, discussing consent, SRH and youth empowerment. Yeah, I think we have already made and highlight on the youth engagement or youth participation. I think this is quite important for us to create the content that not only accurate, not only credible, but also we need involve young people itself to be having a relevant content, and also discussing virginity, CSE for early adolescent. Yeah, thank you very much for your input, and we will go on to the next question here. What are your plans for this year and or next year regarding this? The trend that going on, or about the issues that coming up in your region? So what are your plans for this year and or next year? Or how do you manage your plan to make this CSE topic relevant and relatable to young people? Okay, strengthen CSE. Okay, I think this is quite a word to make it. It's a base. It's a very basic, but it's as important as other elements. Promoting SRHR in rural areas, that's quite interesting. And advocacy for discrimination law. Yeah, I think this also happens in several countries. And starting a TikTok channel to impart sex education. Try to inform SRHR and its effects for climate crisis. I think it's quite interesting. How do this issue intertwine with climate crisis? And CSE digital SRHR platform, CSE tools, development and advocacy, policy dialogues, research and advocacy engagement on youth SRHR and its intersections to climate change. I think this issue, both the SRHR and climate change, are rising, and it's quite a challenging for us to how to communicate it to young people, or to in another level advocacy, more active and volunteering and campaign about stop sexual harassment. Okay, thank you guys for your input. I think this is the last one. Please show the most seen or liked content you have on social media. You can both put the link or name of the content, such as the username of the platform or the social media. Please share to us so we can learn more, to know more about your most favorite content regarding each content creators. You can put the link or name of the account. So simply put the name of the account and maybe the country and or maybe your platform itself. It will be wonderful to share to us. So after this, I would like to remind you guys that we will still have a breakout room session. So we have 4 breakout rooms. Our team will assign you to the breakout rooms, and the other breakout room will stay in the main room for those who need the international sign language interpreter. But yeah, I have not seen your any recommendation. Okay, so yeah, if you have any other short name or short link, you can put here. And thank you. Okay. Yep, we will share it to you. Yeah, we have GFOS Indonesia and yeah, CSE Can NP. Yeah, we will also share it to you guys within our materials from the speakers. And I think that's it for my session. I hope that you guys having a wonderful session. And if I have any, if you have any input or you have any recommendation, other thing that you want to add, just put in the chat. And I would like to remind you that we still have a lucky draw session and quiz. And also don't forget to fill in our present form. So have a good day, and I'll give over to Luxi. Time's yours.
Thank you very much, Mbak Tantri. That was a tremendous discussion. So everyone and the operator, Vani from Cyclus Indonesia, can help me to sign the participant to the room. Okay, just click join and then you will join to the each room for the participant. Thank you.
Our voice, our rights. All young people have the right to access the sexual and reproductive health information and services that ensure their physical and emotional well-being, protecting them from unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence. But in many countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, this access is restricted by legal and policy barriers, including age of consent limitations and parental consent requirements. Sometimes, legislation aimed at protecting young people, such as laws with a high age of consent to have sex, can actually criminalize adolescents of a similar age who are in a caring and consensual relationship. And in countries where same-sex relations are illegal, denial of access to services risks forcing young people attracted to same-sex sexual partners into unsafe practices. Young people have the capacity to understand and exercise their rights that should be protected and respected, with supportive laws and policies. Young people have a need to be heard and a right to be listened to. It's their future, after all. Our voice, our rights. All young people have the right to access the sexual and reproductive health information and services that ensure their physical and emotional well-being, protecting them from unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence. But in many countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, this access is restricted by legal and policy barriers, including age of consent limitations and parental consent requirements. Sometimes, legislation aimed at protecting young people, such as laws with a high age of consent to have sex, can actually criminalize adolescents of a similar age who are in a caring and consensual relationship. And in countries where same-sex relations are illegal, denial of access to services risks forcing young people attracted to same-sex sexual partners into unsafe practices. Young people have the capacity to understand and exercise their rights that should be protected and respected, with supportive laws and policies. Young people have a need to be heard and a right to be listened to. It's their future, after all. Our voice, our rights. All young people have the right to access the sexual and reproductive health information and services that ensure their physical and emotional well-being, protecting them from unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence. But in many countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, this access is restricted by legal and policy barriers, including age of consent limitations and parental consent requirements. Sometimes, legislation aimed at protecting young people, such as laws with a high age of consent to have sex, can actually criminalize adolescents of a similar age who are in a caring and consensual relationship. And in countries where same-sex relations are illegal, denial of access to services risks forcing young people attracted to same-sex sexual partners into unsafe practices. Young people have the capacity to understand and exercise their rights that should be protected and respected, with supportive laws and policies. Young people have a need to be heard and a right to be listened to. It's their future, after all. Our voice, our rights. All young people have the right to access the sexual and reproductive health information and services that ensure their physical and emotional well-being, protecting them from unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence. But in many countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, this access is restricted by legal and policy barriers, including age of consent limitations and parental consent requirements. Sometimes, legislation aimed at protecting young people, such as laws with a high age of consent to have sex, can actually criminalize adolescents of a similar age who are in a caring and consensual relationship. And in countries where same-sex relations are illegal, denial of access to services risks forcing young people attracted to same-sex sexual partners into unsafe practices. Young people have the capacity to understand and exercise their rights that should be protected and respected, with supportive laws and policies. Young people have a need to be heard and a right to be listened to. It's their future, after all. Our voice, our rights. All young people have the right to access the sexual and reproductive health information and services that ensure their physical and emotional well-being, protecting them from unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence. But in many countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, this access is restricted by legal and policy barriers, including age of consent limitations and parental consent requirements. Sometimes, legislation aimed at protecting young people, such as laws with a high age of consent to have sex, can actually criminalize adolescents of a similar age who are in a caring and consensual relationship. And in countries where same-sex relations are illegal, denial of access to services risks forcing young people attracted to same-sex sexual partners into unsafe practices. Young people have the capacity to understand and exercise their rights that should be protected and respected, with supportive laws and policies. Young people have a need to be heard and a right to be listened to. It's their future, after all. Our voice, our rights. All young people have the right to access the sexual and reproductive health information and services that ensure their physical and emotional well-being, protecting them from unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence. But in many countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, this access is restricted by legal and policy barriers, including age of consent limitations and parental consent requirements. Sometimes, legislation aimed at protecting young people, such as laws with a high age of consent to have sex, can actually criminalize adolescents of a similar age who are in a caring and consensual relationship. And in countries where same-sex relations are illegal, denial of access to services risks forcing young people attracted to same-sex sexual partners into unsafe practices. Young people have the capacity to understand and exercise their rights, rights that should be protected and respected, with supportive laws and policies. Young people have a need to be heard and a right to be listened to. It's their future, after all. Our voice, our rights. All young people have the right to access the sexual and reproductive health information and services that ensure their physical and emotional well-being, protecting them from unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence. But in many countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, this access is restricted by legal and policy barriers, including age of consent limitations and parental consent requirements. Sometimes, legislation aimed at protecting young people, such as laws with a high age of consent to have sex, can actually criminalize adolescents of a similar age who are in a caring and consensual relationship. And in countries where same-sex relations are illegal, denial of access to services risks forcing young people attracted to same-sex sexual partners into unsafe practices. Young people have the capacity to understand and exercise their rights, rights that should be protected and respected, with supportive laws and policies. Young people have a need to be heard and a right to be listened to. It's their future, after all. Our voice, our rights. All young people have the right to access the sexual and reproductive health information and services that ensure their physical and emotional well-being, protecting them from unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence. But in many countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, this access is restricted by legal and policy barriers, including age of consent limitations and parental consent requirements. Sometimes, legislation aimed at protecting young people, such as laws with a high age of consent to have sex, can actually criminalize adolescents of a similar age who are in a caring and consensual relationship. And in countries where same-sex relations are illegal, denial of access to services risks forcing young people attracted to same-sex sexual partners into unsafe practices. Young people have the capacity to understand and exercise their rights, rights that should be protected and respected, with supportive laws and policies. Young people have a need to be heard and a right.
So, from room number 3, who wants to deliver the discussion point? Please just, okay.
Sorry. Yeah, hello, Farian and everyone. Well, actually, we don't have any so much time to discuss about our topic, but actually one of the rising topics that we discuss is about how we can adjust the comprehensiveness, and then the way of delivering the information to the young people in terms of sexuality education is based on young people's need and also young people's way to understand about the information. And actually in the group, we also talking about the topics that maybe discussed in other groups. It's about the risk communications and also healthy sexuality informations as well. And then then I also share about the plan of the UNFPA and with the UNESCO as well to develop the toolkits for discussing the Amaze video, that about 2 or 3 minutes video, short video, and then and then complete with the discussions tools that we can use to provoke the discussions for the young peoples, and also inside of the independent learning from the young peoples to the digital from the digital sexuality platforms. It also needs some kind of discussions directly to the young people as well. Yeah, I think that's all of our group discussions, and maybe the rest of the people who in the groups need have some kind of additional informations. Yeah, please share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you Eka Purni from PKBI Bali for sharing their thought about after having discussion with room number 3 about comprehensiveness, relevance, and use. So the next room or the next group would be room number 1 about accuracy and evidence base. Please, is anyone here from the room number 1, delegate from room number 1, just turn on your microphone, and also, if you don't mind, turn on your video. Okay, we want to deliver the discussion point from room number 1. Or maybe the facilitator can help me to turn on the microphone and or the video from the room number 1.
Okay, hello everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can hear you.
So
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Budi. On behalf of the group number 1, we would like to share that at the time we discussed about how to ensure the information to be accurate and to be evidence-based. And then actually, if we're talking about those components, we need to consider and to combine many perspectives, like say how to use the tools, whether the tools is of formal or informal tools, like fact check tools, and then social media and monitoring tools, and then how we involve the peer review, like a stakeholder. It can be from the academic, it can be from the practitioner, and then how we also try to say or discuss with the the user, the social the person who are involved in the content creator. And then we're talking in here that we need to engage many person, and then there is have many available fact check and then social media and social monitoring tools that can be used. So please kindly try to use this term, but most of the tools to support evidence base, we need a keyword. So in order to optimize that, maybe it's important to have a understanding how to combine between the keyword. And then it can be using the website, it can be using the social media as well. So because of social media, or it also can be credible, it depends on the who manage. And then if we use the fact check website, if some of you may be familiar with some of the fact check website, they also have a rank. They also give a rank with website that has been mostly used for the credible information, we also can adopt that. So if in addition to like if we're talking about evidence-based, it's not always about the number, it's not always about the data, but it's about the who inform that, and then how the accuracy, how the information also already represent with the many people who spread the information. So why we using this kind of tools, the discussion in our group, because it's erasing this image during the pandemic, because many misinformation coming. So maybe those kind of tools also can be applied for the health reproductive education or another area as well. If my group have additional information, please do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Budi Eko Siswoyo, from representing the room number 4. Room number 1 about accuracy and evidence base. And we're going to room number 4, diversity, inclusion, and equity, that will be delivered by Ed Bagaso from Philippines.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah. We can hear you.
Okay. So from our group, we talked about how can we make SRH topics be more relevant to the youth. So we centered our discussion to, I think, 3 discussion points. One is the importance of conducting an assessment before designing our campaign messages. So it's important to analyze first the knowledge, the behaviors, the practices, as well as the communication preferences of the audience that we're targeting to before designing anything. Second, it's also imperative that we do research first about the messages that we want to communicate to our target stakeholders, so in this case, the youth. So we need to really understand what information are they interested in, what particular information would be relevant for them to protect themselves from sexual health risk, for example. And then the third point would be the importance of engaging the youth in the formation of these messages. So it's important that throughout the process, they must input in the designing of campaign messages. So it's important to always consider their insights or let them lead in formulating the messages in the campaigns that we plan to do for them. And then the second question was about how do we balance risk communication with healthy positive development. I think that's a question. And we didn't have much discussion on that, but one of the points raised was the importance of not using fear-based languages with the key messages. So while it's important to communicate sexual health risks to the youth, but we must deliver them in a way that's empowering, in a way that will make them act on it, and not in a way that will make them be afraid of that particular issue. So related to that, it
Okay.
away any form of stigma or sorry.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, it's important to avoid any stigmatizing languages in the messages that we use with our campaigns. Yeah, that's it for me. Unless my group would want to add.
Okay, thank you, Ed Pekasal from Philippines, that representing from the 4th room. And the last but not least, please welcome from the 2nd room, please welcome Ms. Hadi from Sri Lanka that will be representing from the room number 2 about norms and rights.
Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear me. The first question was about harmful norms and practices that are prevalent in our regions. So the examples that were given were, the first one from Indonesia was child marriage, which is also a prevalent issue in Sri Lanka as well, and how underage marriage is sort of legalized through the law itself, especially personal laws. And the second example was about harmful norms around menstruation, how it is a taboo topic and how girls are not encouraged to talk about it openly. And the third example was virginity and how still in regions that they do these sort of tests which are not scientific to check virginity of the new bride or something like that. So the second question was, what can we do to sort of challenge these norms? The first example was given from Indonesia about how they challenge harmful norms again around menstruation. One of the participants said that they go to schools and talk to the students and the administrators as well and promote best practices around hygiene and especially around menstruation, and also talk about the science behind it and say it's a natural process and it's every woman or girl go through it. And the second example was from Sri Lanka, how they combat the norm around virginity and how female pleasure is a taboo topic, and they do it by like girls and women coming up on social media and talking openly about female pleasure, whether they are pleasurable sexual encounters they have experienced, even amidst hate speech. And also around virginity, there are content creators, especially video content creators, who create content around which shows that you can have as much as sex if you want and still have your hymen intact if you so wishes to. So things like that the people are doing, and also advocacy initiatives to which promote legal reforms to end child marriages. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hadi from Sri Lanka. So I think that's all for the fourth group from this plenary session. So guys, after we have this plenary session, it's important that before we are going to share our content or we are going to share at our own platform, it's important to know about the how accuracy and evidence based about the content that we would like to share, and also what is the norms and the rights before we are going to have our content. And the most important thing is how to bring our content to be diverse and also inclusion and equity, that it will be for the whole content to make it comprehensiveness, relevance, and use to deliver our message to the community at our own platform. And thank you to all the delegates from each room, and Budi also add some opinion and their thought at the chat room. So guys, for your information, we will have more events upcoming. So please keeping up to the updates of the event. We're looking forward to your participation. Moreover, we will still have a bootcamp for Asia Pacific DSE community in December. So don't miss it. And thank you for all your attention at this plenary session. And we would like to continue our webinar today. Please welcome back Luxi. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very much, Varian. That's a long and tight and yeah, tight session. So we're juggling to the next agenda. We're going to have mini games, mini quiz. So please, operator, can help me to show it. Penny, we would like to answer. Yeah. So can you please open the Mentimeter as well? And then Penny, you can you help us to find the code? Okay, we're still waiting. You can see it here in the chat box. So please, we're going to find like a winner that can answer all of these questions. So, okay. The operators can help to start the game. Okay, Vanny, can you start the quiz? Because I cannot see the questions. Okay. Okay. Oops. Yeah, sorry for waiting. Okay, here are the components of sexuality education except. So just please choose the answer, everyone. Okay, thumbs up. Okay, good. All answer all right. Next questions. We have only 5 questions here. Okay, the faster answer is come from Daniel. Okay, next. We have a tight competitions here. Question number 2. At what age does the World Health Organization or WHO advocate that sex education should teach masturbation to child? In age 4 or 10 or 6 or, oh sorry, I cannot see it, or 8. Time's up. Oh yeah, so everyone are wrong here, but let's see, there's still Daniel there. Yeah, we can continue next. Okay, sex education may begin at what stage of schooling? You can choose primary or kindergarten. Everyone has, okay, kindergarten. So let's see who is the faster. Is there still Daniel? Okay, next. Where do teens get most of their sex educations? From teachers, our peers, our parents, or internet? Okay. from internet. Let's see. There's the winner now. It's still temporary. Okay, it's move up. Okay, it's moved now. Is there still Daniel? Okay. Next, yeah, this is the last questions, last quiz. Please be faster and fastest. According to the CDC study, approximately how many percentage of 15 years old have had sex? What is the answer? Okay, 15%. So now we're going to see the winner of our quiz today. Santa Claus. Okay, okay, thank you. So Santa Claus, please DM me like a direct message on the chat box to me, the name, your name, and then your email. There will be like a special prize that is for 3 winners will get a 1-year subscription to Canva Pro, the world's most popular content creation tool. So the first is the Santa Claus. Please direct message to me in the chat box, your name and your email. And then I also want to choose randomly for the presenter from the breakout room session. I will choose like from the Sri Lanka, maybe for, sorry, Nishadi Gunatilak. You can put your name and also your email direct to me on the chat box. You also got a first 1-year subscription to Canva Pro, and one other is the person that have a feedback on the main session. I will choose it probably like a moment. I will choose Ed Bagasol because he put the feedback on the chat box and also share his thought into this forum. So yeah, please the name 3% chat to me in the chat box, the name and the email. So congratulations for your 1-year subscriptions to Canva Pro, and I'm really sorry. So finally we all now in the closing sessions. We thank all participants who have supported this activity, and we deeply apologize for any mistakes or inconvenience that were made, as well as for the technical issues, the corruption of the time. I need your input on the present form. So please help us to make this event be better, and please join us and wait for the other information through email about the DSE activities in this year end to 2022. So hopefully this will be not the last time we made. Thank you once again. I beg your pardon for all mistakes that I have done, and have a great rest of the weekend and see you. Thank you. Oh, sorry, we have a what is it, like taking a picture together? Can we? Yeah, I'll try to take a picture. Maybe others can open your camera on, and I will I will counting 1, 2, 3, and I'll take the screenshot. On count 1, 2, 3. Wait, another page. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, everyone. See you. Have a good rest of the weekend. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks
Thank you.
all. See you soon.
Hi, everyone. For the committee,
Our voice, our
you're
rights.
still here.
All young
Maybe we
people have the
can-
right to access the
we can
sexual and
try
reproductive
to,
health information and
having, like,
services that ensure
like
their
a short
physical and
session
emotional
to have a
well-being,
debriefing to
protecting
the
them
next,
from unintended pregnancies,
activities, or
sexually
you have,
transmitted
like,
infections,
short and a
and
brief
gender-based
evaluation
violence.
on this event, please
But in many
do
countries
so
in the
because
Asia and the
we
Pacific
need many
region,
inputs and
this
feedback
access
to
is
this
restricted by
activities,
legal and
today's
policy
activity.
barriers.